Okay, hello and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar about how to apply for a cosmetic ingredient code in China. We're going to talk with you for around 40 to 50 minutes. And of course, there will be questions and answers specifically at the end, but we'd like to make this as interactive as possible. So please type your questions into the chat box as they come to you, and we'll be very happy to answer them. If you're just a couple of admin points, if you would like a copy of the slides, please just send me an email, send me or Jeff an email after the webinar, and I'd be happy to share them with you. And also there will be a recording of this webinar done, and so we can share that with you afterwards as well. First, just a little bit about us. We are Cisema, a regulatory affairs consultancy and CRO for China. We were founded 20 years ago, in fact. It's our 20th anniversary this year, and Cisema stands for China Service Management. We were founded by a former Siemens engineer in Munich, Germany, and Beijing, China, and we now have 12 offices around the world with nearly 100 full-time employees, 100% focused on China registration, regulatory affairs for life sciences and other products. I'm Hamish King. I'm a lawyer by training. I've been doing a number of webinars on and off, so you may have seen me before, and I'm very happy to see you again. I'm qualified as a lawyer in Sydney, Australia, as well as in Hong Kong, which has been my home for the last 7 years. We also have, we're fortunate to have Jeff Jiang with us today. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone about you?
Hello everyone, this is Jeff Jiang. I'm mainly responsible for cosmetics regulatory affairs in China, and I'm based in Beijing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. So just briefly, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the regulatory framework. We're going to talk about the Cosmetics Ingredient Safety Information Platform specifically, before we talk more about how to apply for this Cosmetics Ingredient Code, or CIC for short. Then we're going to move to a little bit of case study and frequently asked questions. We hope that by the end you have a bit more of an understanding about this new regulatory development in China for cosmetics, and specifically for cosmetics ingredients. So we look forward to helping you as best we can understand, but if anything's unclear, of course, ask questions as we go or at the end of the session, and please get in touch after the session. Okay, first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the regulatory framework for cosmetics ingredients and cosmetics more broadly in China. The top level body is really the SAMR as well as the NMPA. That's the State Administration for Market Regulation, as well as the National Medical Products Administration, or NMPA for short. There's also a couple of other departments of NMPA, which is the key regulator relating to cosmetics and cosmetics ingredients, as well as medical device, IVDs, pharmaceuticals in China. That is the Center for Drug Evaluation, as well as the Center for Medical Device Evaluation, CMDE, which may sometimes be relevant for cosmetics registrations. There's, in addition, there's the NIFDC, National Institute for Food and Drug Control, and this body will issue guidelines and also be responsible for testing processes. There's the Chinese Pharmacopoeia, and which is also relevant somewhat, as well as the Inventory of Existing Cosmetic Ingredients in China. That's the IECIC for short, and it's a key document which determines or is an important decision point along which you should be aware for your cosmetic ingredients in China. Okay, Jeff, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about, from your perspective as the cosmetics expert, what are the key regulation in China for cosmetics and cosmetic ingredients, and how to tell if a cosmetic is new, or rather a cosmetic ingredient is a new one or not in China?
The regulatory body for cosmetics ingredient in China is the NMPA, the National Medical Products Administration. And the main regulation is the famous regulation CSAR, Cosmetic Supervision and Administration Regulation. And regarding how to consider the new ingredients in China, it is depends on whether it is included in the inventory of existing cosmetics ingredients in China. Short is IECIC, and the latest version is 2021 version. As the manufacturer of cosmetic ingredients, if they are listed in IECIC, then they could report to the NMPA via the safety information platform to get a code, cosmetic ingredient code. Or they also have the second option. They could provide the regulation, the Appendix 14 documents to replace the code. And we will clear the information and provide more details in follow slides.
Thank you. And we've set out the sort of broader decision-making process for cosmetics ingredients manufacturers. The first decision point is really, do you have a cosmetic ingredient? And is it on the IECIC list? That list is a comprehensive list, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it shortly, but it's really a kind of black and white situation where if you are on it, then you can go through what we call the safety information or the cosmetics ingredient code application route, or if it's not, then you need to go through a new cosmetic registration process. And that is a whole different kettle of fish, whole different process, which we will touch on briefly and provide a little bit of detail just by way of comparison as well. So as you can see here on one side of the slide, we've just very simply drawn out that if your product is not on the IECIC list, then you go through the registration process. If it is on the IECIC list, then you have the option of either providing safety-related information of the ingredient by way of a full report, which is provided to your customer, the cosmetics manufacturer, or you yourself as the cosmetics ingredients manufacturer apply to NMPA online platform to obtain a specific code. And then you pass along, instead of the full safety information, you pass along this code to your cosmetics manufacturer customer instead. So just to explain a little bit more about the difference between a new cosmetic ingredient versus a cosmetic ingredients code or CIC. A new cosmetic ingredient is a process for registering a ingredient that is not already on the IECIC list. The latest version of the IECIC was issued in 2021, as Jeff mentioned, and is generally updated every 5 years or so. There are currently more than 8,700 ingredients listed in the IECIC, and we've just sort of tried to really make it clear this IECIC and approved cosmetic ingredients list is a different thing from the cosmetic ingredient code from the CIC. The CIC is something that you pass down the supply chain. The new cosmetic ingredient or IECIC list is something that you need to be on, or your ingredient needs to be on in order to be able to include it in cosmetics in China. Jeff, is there anything else to say about the IECIC or in particular, when a customer comes to you to ask for, is my product on the list? How do you go about it?
So our main topics today is CIC, the cosmetic ingredient code. And the precondition to apply for the CIC is that your ingredients should be included in the IECIC list, which contains more than 8,700 ingredients. Generally, our clients, maybe the ingredients manufacturer, will ask us to confirm whether their ingredients are already on the IECIC. If yes, we will provide our service to apply for the cosmetic ingredient code in China. So yeah, this is what I want to see.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now we're going to talk about the platform itself. And Klaus, thank you. I see we've received a question about who has to do all this, the manufacturer exporting to China or also the supplier. The question is, it could be one or the other. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means later on. But thank you for your question. And if we haven't answered it properly in a moment, then please let me know. So we're going to talk about, first of all, the platform, the online platform, because this has been set up recently by NMPA, and it is through this platform that you need to make your application for the specific code. Jeff, could you walk us a bit through the platform, what it is, and how it works?
Okay, obviously this platform is all Chinese, and there are 5 buttons. And the first one is the button for management of the ingredient safety information. And the second one is the file in the safety information of the ingredients manufacturer. And the third one is the list of ingredients manufacturer. And the fourth one is file in the safety ingredient safety information. And the last one is the list of ingredients safety information. So there are 2 lists and 2 ways to file in ingredient manufacturer's information and ingredient safety information. Yeah. There.
Thank you. Yeah, so this, just to recap, this screenshot is what the online platform looks like if you as a manufacturer were to apply for the for an online account with NMPA in order that you can then submit and apply for this code. This screenshot here is of, and the email here you can see is a Cisema email. So this is what it looks, but this is what it looks like kind of behind the scenes, so to speak. And why we wanted to show you this is just to give you a sense of how this online platform system works, and also to give you a sense of how, yes, you can do this yourself, of course, as a manufacturer, or you can arrange for a third party to do so. And and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, how that process works. Just going into a little bit more detail about this online platform and how the cosmetics ingredients code application works in the context here. First, you have the platform itself, then you apply for the code. So you have a one-time platform or online account application, and then you through this single online account, you apply for many codes specific to the relevant manufacturer or authorized rep. And we're going to talk a bit more detail, but the CIC, just to emphasize again, it replaces the need to provide safety information to your cosmetics manufacturer. And the important point we want to emphasize again is that the code takes the place of such safety information, so you don't need to provide manufacturing information or other perhaps more sensitive data to your cosmetics manufacturer. It's only the regulator itself in China who will review and see this relevant safety information. Okay, so just going into a bit more detail about how this has come about, because it is all part of the CSAR implementation. We talked about CSAR earlier, which is the key new cosmetics regulation in China that was implemented last year. The CSAR details a certain timeline for implementation of various parts of the cosmetics and cosmetics ingredients regulation. Importantly, January 1st of this year was when the key start date for the submission code, or CIC, was available and possible, and also it was the start date by which new cosmetics needed to provide safety information relating to their high-risk products, high-risk ingredients for their products, excuse me. High risk, for the purposes of NMPA, means they are ingredients that have the functions of anti-corrosion, sun protection, coloring, hair dyeing, freckle removal, and whitening. But by 1st of January next year, cosmetics manufacturers will need to provide safety information for all cosmetics ingredients in the formula as part of their submission for approval or product approval and sales in China. So that's why this cosmetics code is becoming more and more important. It's drawing in cosmetics manufacturers, cosmetics ingredients manufacturers, because they become more and more part of the process of ensuring a product is safe and effective for sale in China. And by 1st of May 2023, the sort of next milestone, all products or cosmetics that have already obtained registration or filing in China will need to provide or supplement the safety information of their ingredients. So that means that even if the product has already been registered, let's say last year there was a moisturizer that was registered in China by a German manufacturer, German cosmetics manufacturer, that although when that product was registered last year, it didn't need to provide any safety information about its cosmetic ingredients, by the 1st of May 2023, it will need to supplement and submit and provide to the NMPA all in relation to all ingredients the safety information. So that can be quite a big change, and you can imagine that quite a lot of cosmetics manufacturers will need to get in touch and also increase communications with their ingredient suppliers in order to ensure they remain compliant in China. Otherwise, there is a risk that their cosmetics registrations or filings may be cancelled or subject to fines in China sales market. So how do you submit this ingredient safety information to NMPA? We've talked about how there's really two broad options. Option one is you submit full safety information, which is specified as per Annex 14 of the CSAR regulation. This means full information relating to the relevant data points along the annex. Like Jeff, could you provide a bit more detail about what type of safety information such cosmetics manufacturers will need to provide in relation to their cosmetics ingredients?
Generally, in the Annex 14, in the regulation, it contains the detailed information of the ingredients and the physical and chemical characters of the ingredients. Also, the manufacturer and the process flowchart of the ingredients, and some other testing method and risk substance and other literature documents, as so on. So it involves much information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the other option, if you don't want to provide this information to your cosmetics manufacturer customer, then you can instead apply for the code itself in the online platform with NMPA. So going into a bit more detail about the code itself, the person who is responsible or who can submit the code is in general the role in the supply chain responsible for the safety of the ingredient. That is generally the cosmetic ingredient manufacturer. However, they can also appoint, or a cosmetic ingredient manufacturer can also appoint an authorized rep via a letter of authorization for a third-party service provider, distributor, or trader. And we act in this role for our customers. This is another option if you don't want to go through the hassle yourself, if the Chinese language barrier is a problem, or if you want to be sure that you're doing it the correct way. As we've previously mentioned, the language barrier can be an issue here because because of everything, because all requirements and all documents must be submitted in Chinese, and because the online platform is in Chinese. So going into a bit more detail, step one of the process is to set up the online account itself. This means, from the manufacturer perspective, selecting a Chinese name for the company. We'd be happy to provide suggestions if you don't already have a Chinese name, or are not fluent in Chinese. Then either, if you would like to go about setting up your own account, you can do so. To do so, you'll need to have a legalized company registration document by your Chinese embassy or original, sent to the Chinese public notary. Or if you appoint, say, Cisema to act as the online account holder, you can provide a notarized letter of authorization instead. Then the next process is a translation for the relevant registration documentation, followed by completion of the relevant safety information to be provided as part of the cosmetics ingredient code application. Step two follows the flowchart here on the slide, where first we will support the manufacturer to complete the safety information based on the regulations and requirements. Then there's a translation process, followed by a submission and code generation process in the online account. Once that code is generated, it can then be provided to your end customers through the supply chain. A few practice points we'd like to mention here. The safety code is itself automatically generated by the system after submission in the online account. The code consists of a few different numbers which create up the longer code, or CIC. There is a 5-digit manufacturer code, 5 digits relating to the manufacturer, 6 digits relating to the ingredient itself, and then 3 digits originally relating to the quality specification of the raw materials. Although, Jeff, maybe you could explain a little bit more about why we say 3/4 here.
3 or 4 digit quality specification of raw materials code is in the regulation. It is mentioned 3 digit quality specification, but recently we applied for the code and we succeeded in getting the code, but however, it is already 4 digits quality specification of the raw material code. It might be because the number there are too many ingredients manufacturer are applying for the code, so maybe 3 digits is not sufficient. So now they use 4 digits. Maybe in the future they will use 5 digits for quality specification of raw materials code, because there are so many ingredients on selling. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, so already there's been a lot of applications, so it seems like they've run out of numbers relating to at least quality of specification so far. Another practice point we just want to mention here is that if your safety information relating to the ingredient does change, then you'll need to apply for a new code. Generally, there's no provision at this stage in the regulations to make a amendment to a code, or no clear ability to do so. This is probably more relevant for compound ingredients, because they're more likely to shift in formula specification or percentages. So just going into a little bit more detail about what this looks like once you get the code registered. We've taken a snapshot here of the publicly available public system online account, which shows the number of ingredients that have been or have obtained the code so far. So just to be clear again, this is not the IECIC. The IECIC is a specific list, although it is in a few different places. So it's not exactly as straightforward as having one full list, but that is different from the ingredients that have in fact obtained the code so far. Those ingredients that have obtained the code from specific manufacturers are listed in the online database, which we've just taken a screenshot of. And Jeff, could you please just walk us through in a little bit more detail about the key data we can see here in the online public system?
Okay, this is the Chinese public system for the already approved cosmetic ingredient code. So you can see more than 92,000 ingredients has already applied for the code, and the first circle is the number, so it makes no sense. And the second one is the compound of the ingredients. And you can see for both compound ingredients or single ingredients, they could apply for the code. And the third circle is the ingredient code. But however, you can only see the sixth number. This sixth number is the ingredients number, and we mentioned before, except besides the ingredient number, there are also 5 digits for the manufacturer number and 3 or 4 digits for the specification of the ingredients.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. So just here's the example on the slide, which is the first ingredient that appears. It will have all its information in Chinese, although there is some English, obviously some English names as well, and that varies throughout the system. This is in fact the only information available, so you can't click through here. There's no further subpage showing you more information. So there's no information about the manufacturer who registered or listed this ingredient. There is just the ingredient itself. Okay, we're going to go into a little bit more of a case study here. We're moving through this relatively quickly, but hopefully you're clear. And I see we've got a few further questions. Thank you very much. And we'll come to those shortly. One question from Bridget is about the safety information. And Klaus, thank you. You've asked for some more clarification here. As we walk through this case study, maybe this will help develop the situation a little bit more, because we hope to talk about what a typical situation is for our customers. So for example, Company A is a cosmetic ingredient manufacturer based in France, responsible for safety of their ingredients, which is effectively their end product. They supply their ingredients to a Company B, who is a cosmetic skincare brand based in Germany, let's say. Now, Company B wants to sell their skincare products into China. And in order to do so, they need to register that product with the NMPA. As part of that registration dossier, they need to report the safety information of the cosmetic ingredient used to make the finished product as part of their NMPA dossier application. But Company B does not have access to the safety information of the ingredient itself, because Company A wants to keep this information confidential, or it has been asked this question over and over again, and it doesn't want to keep providing the same thing to many different customers, and there's substantial information relating to this. So, what would we recommend here? We'd say first of all that Company B should check if all the cosmetic ingredients in its product formula are listed on the IECIC. So this is the cosmetic manufacturer who needs to do this checking as part of their registration or filing process in China. This is something that of course they need to do as a matter of course, and we help many customers do this every day. Step 2 is to ask the cosmetics manufacturer, Company B, should ask its supplier of cosmetic ingredients, Company A, to either apply for the code or provide the safety information. If it asks for the code, then company A is the one who needs to go and apply in the online account platform for an online account and then apply for the code. Then company A can share the code with its supplier, company B, in relation to the cosmetics for registration in China. And just to be clear, company A, the cosmetic ingredient supplier, can then go on to share that code with any of its other cosmetics customers because the code is specific to that ingredient manufacturer and the ingredient itself. So it's kind of it makes sense, especially if you supply to many cosmetics manufacturers who want to supply their products and sell into China. Klaus, maybe that provides a bit more detail about your question about when you have a customer who is a manufacturer of a cosmetic formula that exports the product to China. You do the supply ingredients for the manufacturer, and you've asked, do you need to register for the CIC code, or does the manufacturer have to do this? Actually, it's you as cosmetics ingredient supplier, because this is for your benefit. The idea being, it's kind of like drug master filing, if you're aware of that in the pharmaceutical world. The idea is that you can provide this information and have a direct contact or communication with the regulator, so that you don't have to provide such detailed information to your end customer. So it's in your benefit to protect what may well be your confidential information. On the other hand, if this information about your particular ingredient, like manufacturing information or chemical data, etc., is not considered confidential or proprietary, then you may not be as bothered, perhaps because you can just simply provide the full safety information. Although even then, it can be quite burdensome on you as the manufacturer to go through and provide such information, and it may be easier to do it one time by applying for this code, and then it's clear for your end customer. So just one or two more slides, and then I'll get back to these questions here. Just to give you an idea about a standard service scope for what our service, for example, might look like if we were to support a cosmetics ingredients manufacturer, I should say, apply for this code in China. There's a service related to the one-time account application, which is done per manufacturer, and that's the second part in the slide, lower in the slide. And there's additionally per cosmetics ingredient a service relating to the application in the online account to obtain the code. The service scope itself should be relatively self-explanatory. And I should say, first of all, this depends, of course, on the ingredient being in the IECIC list. But the key steps are really a documentation stage, an information and registration preparation stage, a communication stage to discuss and finalize documentation, translation of documents into Chinese as well, because we've talked about the Chinese language requirement, followed by the submission and the receipt of the code itself. Okay, just before we move to questions, I wanted to provide, one slight, somewhat divergent steps or flowchart just relating to new cosmetics ingredients, because there's a lot of confusion around what do we do if we have a new cosmetics ingredients? Do we also apply for this code, or how does it work? I hope it's become clear that to apply as a new cosmetic ingredient in China is a completely different process compared with applying as or for the CIC, for the cosmetics ingredient code. And just to fill that out a little bit more, I wanted to just mention briefly about what a new cosmetic ingredient registration and filing looks like in China. It's a much more involved process that requires local testing in China. It requires substantial dossier preparation, review, filing, and regulator discussion and communication. It is generally a timeline of around 18 months or 21 months or sometimes even more, compared with the online account application, which in our experience takes around a month, if not less. So the two things are very different, and the end result of applying for a new cosmetic ingredient registration, is that you eventually have your cosmetic ingredient added to the IEC/IC list. However, that only comes after this 18-21 month timeline is passed and the approval is obtained. Then there is what we've shown here on the slide, a 3-year monitoring period during which your cosmetic ingredient is approved, but it is still not yet added to the IEC/IC list until that 3-year monitoring period is passed. However, during that 3-year monitoring period, your ingredient can now be used in cosmetics in China. The final result, as I mentioned, is the IEC/IC addition to the IEC/IC list. On the other hand, if you apply for the cosmetics ingredient code, the final result is that your code is received by you as the manufacturer, and also it's added to this public system, which we showed earlier. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the key points we wanted to cover in this webinar. Just very briefly, to remind attendees about what we can do and how we can help you at Cisema. We can, first of all, help you with new cosmetics new cosmetic products registration and filing in China. We can act as the local agent or domestic responsible agent, DRA. We can also support with testing, which is a really important process as part of the cosmetics registration or new cosmetics ingredients registration process. We also help with this cosmetics ingredients code, CRC application, and the new ingredient registration itself. In this webinar today, we hope it's been informative and helpful. Just a reminder that it's our 20th anniversary this year as Cisema, and we're very happy to have supported many customers and many clients for thousands of projects for China registration and regulatory affairs. And we hope you found it interesting. Please get in touch if you'd like to know more. Our details are set out on the slide. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.